Hello and welcome to a disciplinary meeting of the Foundry Roundtable, being hosted tonight in Admiral Quinn's office. Tonight we have Greendragoon and Markhawkman are trying to bring up DuncanIdaho on insubordination charges, but I don't think it's going to stick because Mark is basically sitting on the Admiral's lap, and that's probably not going to fly.
Nope.
And I, of course, am I am not Greendragoon. I almost said I was Greendragoon. Why did I say that?
It's going well this
week. I'm out of practice or something. I'm Drogan1701, and I'm just standing here being a bodyguard.
It's fine. We just impersonated the Admiral to get free stuff. It's not like we really caused any damage at all, except to the Enterprise, since we kind of stole that.
Zero in the chat room was wondering if we've been drinking. No, it's just improv. Terrible, bad improv.
I've got decaf coffee, so I have been drinking, but I have not been drinking.
This is one of those things that happens when one person comes up with an idea for a joke and then passes it off to someone else who comes up with their own twist, and so on and so forth.
Pretty much.
Speak for yourself. I haven't spoken yet.
So, Dragoon, speak. Say things.
Welcome. Here we are. And I did not just have to quick update the episode number because it was still set from last week.
Shall I just do a little bit of a dance here, keep the show rolling while you guys continue setting up?
So, wow, episode 180, huh?
Yes.
We were actually just discussing before the show. We are almost about to have our 5th anniversary.
Yep,
5 years.
Beginning of February, which is conveniently very close to Stowe's anniversary and conveniently very close to the Foundry's anniversary.
Ooh, that means we should probably do something for that.
That is what we're thinking.
Like the Foundry had been going a year before we started, I think, and Stowe had been going maybe like 2 years before that, or something like that.
The Foundry would have had to have been going about 2 years ahead. So,
anyway, temporal shenanigans.
We'll figure out the math later.
We'll figure out the math for when we actually do the anniversary show later on in February.
Yeah. Right now, we're only capable of counting troll style. So there's 1, 2, and then many.
So obviously, it's a new year. We got, the promise of a new and exciting time, like we always do when we get a roll around to January. So Dragoon set us up a little bit of homework last week that we're going to start with tonight. So Dragoon, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so as often is the case, we have New Year's comes New Year's resolutions, and as we kind of look forward, I kind of wanted to see give you the challenge of what you guys would love to see added to the Foundry. As always, this is just our own little whims, and there is no guarantee ever that any of this ever shows up in game.
And of course, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Zero's in the chat room right now.
No, we're going to
purely coincidence. No, they can confirm. I brought this up to them last week and said, look, hey, I want to do this. We've done similar in the past, and
well, also we've had a week to think about what we want to do. So.
Well, I forgot about it until today, but I'm quick on my feet.
It's never that hard for us to come up with stuff to ask for.
Well, that in and of itself is not the challenge. The challenge is that you have to whittle it down to 1 new feature, 5 individual assets, and 1 bug fix. So this is a hypothetical. If you were stuck in front of the Stowe dev team and said, "Hey," and they asked you what these things were, that you would have to answer them.
5 assets, 1 bug fix, and what was the last one?
1 new feature.
Oh, okay.
Well, I can start us off.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to start off by cheating because I'm going to combine feature and bug fix because unfortunately it's going to be taking some bug fixes in order to bring this feature back, which is the costume import and export button. That was a very useful feature to have. You could transfer costumes between missions. You can load up your Foundry costume in the game on your player character and vice versa. It's very nice to have. And obviously it crashed the game. The devs don't like when that happens.
Well,
understandably.
The reason why it crashed the game is because it would allow you to create costumes that we didn't actually have the ability to normally create in the Foundry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it would take some bug fixes, but I think it would be a great feature to have back. And so, okay, so for my assets, I got one that shouldn't be too terrible. It's the Dyson Sphere backdrop. So like when you're in the like the main part of the Dyson Sphere or something. Taka once told me that there was a backdrop for that. We don't necessarily need like the floor geometry or anything like that, just to be able to set something inside the Dyson Sphere.
Well, it still might be like the backdrop itself might not, go all the way. So it actually might be. It could be a little easier if we actually just got the full map.
There was one particular map that I think it looked like it was at least somewhat all around on, and I can't remember what it was. Okay, so the next one for mine is a star for space maps, and there's two of these that There's two of these that you could do. There's the one from Night of the Comet, where you slingshot around it to go back in time, and then there's the one from what is the Dyson Sphere one? Is it Step Between the Stars?
Yeah, that's the one where you're like over the star and it's below you.
Yeah. So to have that placeable for space maps would either one of those would be totally cool because we don't have the stars right now.
I'm going to guess in the case of Step Between the Stars, you would want the map itself and then maybe minus the station and not.
It depends on how that was built in the first place, probably.
Yeah. It's just so big. I mean, it seems like it's an integrated part of the map.
Yeah, we might have to caveat these just by saying, assuming the space magic all works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's we have no idea how feasible any of this is, and this is why.
We don't.
Zero's just in the chat right now, just kind of just drinking, just like yeah.
Okay, so I try never to assume anything is easy, except this next one, which probably ought to be easy.
Okay. Famous last words.
So famous last words. The holding cells, but with the force fields turned off.
Okay.
Very simple, but I think could be quite useful.
Oh, also maybe make a asset for the force field itself, because one thing that just occurred to me is that our in-game selection of force field assets does not include anything the size of a door.
It's a little limited.
Yeah, you got to be creative. Sometimes use glass instead.
Okay, the next one, Discovery uniforms.
Okay.
Because why not? They're cool.
Might actually have a shot at getting those.
For the last one, I would like a wall from the Romulan ships from the Legacy of Romulus era. Because all the Romulan walls and stuff that we have are from launch. And they redid and updated all the art style for Romulans, for Legacy of Romulus, and produced some really, really cool looking stuff. So just like a section of wall out of the, like the Romulan flotilla.
Oh, is that the last thing on your list?
Now that I think about it, there's a really long list of interior assets from the Romulan flotilla, because they made a whole bunch of different things that were just slightly different from the existing stuff to make the Romulan faction interiors unique. Which also reminds me is the interior of the Romulan command building. I don't think we have that one.
Nope.
Well, it's a pseudo interior mapping, but it'd still be awesome to have.
All right, so those are mine.
I'm good to go
Who
with
wants
mine.
to go next?
Did you do the feature and bug?
Yeah.
Yeah, I combined them.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the feature needed bug fixes.
Okay. So I'm going to go starting off with assets, then bug fix, and then feature. So starting off with the assets, I've got 3 grouped together: a Zenkethi contact NPC, a Herald contact NPC, and a Nikul contact NPC. Just one, just so we could actually have some dialogue with those guys, because those weren't automatically added with the mobs. So we can't actually have.
We have the
loading
combat NPC groups. We don't.
but
have
not
just a regular-
any ability to put those guys in dialogue, which is kind of restricting for a mission I've got coming up, and I've got to have to improvise. But just those 3 to cover off the bases. So that's a Zenkethi NPC, a Nikul NPC, and then a Herald NPC.
Okay.
Then the duelist uniforms from the competitive rep. And just because
like
there's
the capes.
I like the capes, and the other option with those ones is that it does also allow you to mix factions together and create some pretty good kit bashing with the miscellaneous Under Armor. So that would be a useful one to have. And then lastly, the door from the Zenkethi bridge.
Okay.
'Cause
That'd be
that-
That's right. I remember when we were hanging out there. You guys liked that door.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
the one that basically kind of opened up like the doors in the Death Star, only sort of vertically and horizontally rather than diagonally. So it had this really neat operation.
Yeah, those are cool.
That's gonna be tricky because those Zenkethi hallways are weirdly shaped.
Yeah. Well, I could substitute in the for more capes the colony uniforms.
Zero is shouting in the chat room, no capes.
Okay,
But-
I'm going to switch off the Zenkethi
you know-
door
but you
with the
know what?
colony uniforms for that reason.
You know what?
This is a really good team.
Lando Calrissian wears a cape, so therefore capes are cool. And that's just an end of it.
Okay, and then for bug fix, lighting on space maps under lighting 2.0. Just getting something with those to be working.
That
So
would be nice.
that would be nice, and it would seem right now we've got lighting in the editor, but not lighting. Like there's some tricks we can do to get lighting for a space map under lighting 2.0 in the editor, but that doesn't carry over to holodeck, and I have no idea why.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that would be that would be my biggest bug fix, because then I can make all my space maps beautiful again. Because right now they're all flat and sad. But actually, now I've been doing some interesting stuff with custom backdrops, so it'd still be nice to have lighting in space maps again. And then for new feature, I mean, the obvious one would be whole new search interface UI, but that's a major project. I would consider that a bunch of features. So I'll narrow it down to one thing. I would like the ability for when you're in the sector block, you for that little window that pops up for the top 3 system, to have a button that then expands that list to every mission that's there on that system. So an ability to see all missions at a particular system in the Foundry top 3 little UI thingy.
kind of cool.
Well, that was my original idea, like way back in the olden days. It feels like centuries ago. As something that would show you every mission that was at a door that you happened to be at.
It's actually something that has actually been proposed many times in the past, is the ability to just like turn on this feature so that whenever you walk up to something or fly up to something that has a Foundry door associated with it, you can just pull up a list of missions that use that door. I mean, the top 3 system is halfway there, but it only works on sector space, and it only gives you 3 missions, but also it only gives you missions that qualify for rewards. It doesn't give you newly published missions.
Yeah, so maybe you're in an alternative just to have that search by particular star location. But
Could be fun. Could be fun to have a button on there that turns it into gives you 3 missions that haven't qualified for review yet.
yeah, possibly.
Yes,
Yeah,
Zero. I know the database is gigantic, and that this is something that people would need to use carefully.
I think we were told that it's broken 100,000 now. That there's more than 100,000 missions.
Woo!
Yeah.
But yeah, just maybe a little bit of an slight expansion, like giving you a few more options to the top 3 system. But just
I mean, if it was to work, maybe it could be something like it pulls up like the mission window, and then just pulls up all the missions, or as many as the UI can handle of missions at that location. Anyway,
This is totally like the best night to do this because
we really did not have plan on having Maria in the chat room.
It's insane. It's just like again, we got to caveat this is just like assuming the space magic all works out, and then
she's like Luke Skywalker in here. Everything you said in that sentence is wrong. All right. So who gets to be wrong next? Mark, how about you?
Okay. So my bug fix. I'm not 100% sure this is actually a bug or if it's just a non-feature, but the inability to currently transfer maps while in preview mode. Because currently the editor will not let you even attempt to transfer maps in preview mode.
Yep, the map transfer just fails. No, I'm pretty sure that's a bug.
Anyways, the new feature would be the ability to teleport the player as a triggered event. Because cryptic missions do this. The Neverwinter Foundry has the ability to do that, but Stowe does not.
Okay, so like a triggered teleporter.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things like you walk over to the transport pad, you push the button to teleport yourself, and then you appear on the other side of the map. Simple. That would definitely be a new feature, and it would be something useful to have because of the sheer number of times people have come up with, shall we say, creative ways to bypass this limitation, which are in some cases dumber than others and more annoying than others, such as killing the player by spawning you need an EV suit volume. And, oh wait, that doesn't necessarily kill you quickly.
You know, it would be very helpful to have a teleporter like that on, because there's certain maps like, say, like the Constitution interior, where there's separate parts set off from each other, and you can't get to them all in the same map. You have to change maps. So you just teleport from one section to another.
If I remember right, the Constitution interior actually has 4 sections.
Was there a 4th? I thought there were 3.
There's the bridge. There's the main crew deck. There's the inside of the Jeffries tubes, and maybe that's the only 3. Oh wait, no, I think there's like 2 different.
The bridge is a separate map, I think.
Yep.
Really?
It's got it has
there's an engineering crew deck and Jeffries tubes on one map.
Yeah,
and then
the bridge is definitely it's got the Agents of Yesterday film grain effect as a baked-in map element now.
Does it still have the door to nowhere?
I think they fixed that. I'm not sure. There's actually more than one door to nowhere in that map. But I think those were fixed.
What else you got on your list?
Actually, though, door to nowhere known that one room actually had consoles baked into it because there's a glitch that made it so that the consoles were on the wrong side of the wall. Oops. But because of the door to nowhere, I was able to walk around and look at the back side of the wall, and it's like, wait a second, why are these out here? But that was not my choice for a bug fix. So, speaking of consoles, there are a wide variety of alien consoles that we do not have the ability to use as Foundry assets, which are things that are very distinctive and unique, like those Tholian consoles with the holographic control matrices. Let's see. There's the Tholian ones. That's actually the first one I thought of way back when someone first asked me what asset I would like to have most added to the Foundry set. Tholian consoles are one of them. Then later on, of course, we have the Elachi consoles, Solane consoles, and several other things like that. To be honest, the full list of consoles that I would like to have is probably more than just 5 things, though. So
Yeah, you're gonna have to pick your favorites.
Those first 3 there I mentioned those are what I those are the ones that come to my mind most, though. Although saying Solane consoles is actually a category of objects anyways, but yeah. Other things I would like to have, it's like you mentioned, there are certain aliens that we do not have the ability to make as Foundry characters, and we do not have the ability to use as costumes or friendly NPCs.
Anything specific?
I think that's adequate for my list. Oh, well, specific ones. I don't think we have the ability to use Elachi as friendly NPCs. We have the ability to
Nope, we got him
now, but
we got him as contact.
Oh,
yeah,
we do
got
have
him as
Elachi.
contact.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
At one point, I started to go through and look at a list of NPCs that had something unique and interesting about them that we didn't have. I think I got sidetracked from that project. Like I do.
Well, in that case, then, Elachi ship interior and Tholian, unless we have that one already.
No, I don't think we have
No,
a
I
Tholian
don't think we have any Tholian. Just we ran into
it's one of
that.
those things that they're just so special,
We ran into that back when we did one of the Foundry challenges. I think one of Brandflake's Foundry challenges was do a mission about Tholians, and there was no Tholian interior. I don't think there was even one in the game at that point in any of the missions. So it's like, how do you make a Tholian interior? But that can be a good challenge, Make something that you don't have any sort of assets for.
So it never stopped us before.
That's what we do.
That was inspired by the Fortress of Solitude in the Superman movie.
Yeah, let's see. I made an Enterprise B hallway.
We just did an Enterprise J hallway.
Yep.
Brogan, I remember you doing just an Enterprise hallway.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I believe Dragoon, you're left. What are your top want lists?
So, as is always, the challenge is whittling it down to 5. Of course, it's not worth doing if it isn't challenging. So first I put on my list was the origin interior. I had thought about asking. I thought about asking for individual, all the different individual parts that make up the interior so we could piece them together, and I realized that I would already max out my list. So just the origin interior as it is as a map. Second on my list,
there was a mission that had several pieces of the origin interior on one map that I thought would work good for that. I can't remember what it was now.
It shows up. It shows up in the tutorial. which in several versions, and I've kind of poked around in that with a demo record, and it's like everything is piled onto a single map. So like everything up until the first time you go to space is like all piled onto a single map. So it's like insanity. But it shows up in the mission where Morel Paris gets kidnapped.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And I want to say it also shows up in Delta Flight.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those would kind of, I think, would be the easiest. Second one is Romulan player interior. Again, it's the same thing with the origin interiors. I mean, you could just come up with this massive list of all the different like pieces, parts of that make up the interior, but most of the modern interiors are like very specifically sculpted. It's not like the more building block-esque interiors we had from the launch. And so it's like, I think just the easiest would be just to give us the map itself and to just give it to us that way, because then we can kind of customize. And if you look at most of the missions that take place, at least from Cryptic, that take place on Romulan interiors, they're kind of variations on that anyways. So yeah, just the Romulan player interior, and I think that would provide an awful lot of mileage. My third item is a bomb. That has been on the list forever. Just a placeable bomb. 4 and 5 go together. So, as you know, the way pathing works in Cryptic games is it's set once and then never changes. And this can run into problems with spawning and despawning objects. And what we often like to do is spawn and despawn doors to lock and unlock them. So we'll have one door, which includes the wall frame around it. So it'll start out closed. We'll swap it out for an unlocked version, and unfortunately, this always tends to wreak havoc on
there's a workaround.
BOF pathing. What's that?
You have the opening door as you start with that in place, and then what you remove is a locked version of that door that it's offset by just a few tenths or hundredths of a coordinate, so that is directly in front. I use this in Apex. Actually, no, I use this in Epoch. So the pathing will work, and you'll still get the same effect. So what you're doing is despawning a cover to an opening door. You'll still get the sound effect,
and I've done that.
if they move by that one. But yeah, there is a workaround to that one, but it can be a little inelegant and only really kind of applies to this situation. It's harder to cover up other doors.
I mean,
besides.
my thinking was that we've actually got two or three set or different doors where it's just the door, no frame, which they gave us for the Odyssey Bridge, because it didn't have any working doors on it. So they gave us just the door. So we have those. So my 4 and 5 was just the door frame itself with no door, and then a locked version of the door with no door frame. And those two things, and we'd have a complete set and be able to do our locking, unlocking doors properly. So for my bug fix, I knew you were going to go for space lighting, Duncan. So I intentionally went different and said interior ground lighting. That doesn't work either. So on interior maps, I'd love to see that working. And then lastly, my new feature is actually backdrops for dialogue windows. So recently, Cryptic started doing like all these custom like backdrops for the NPC contacts and dialogue windows, and I would love just a set of those that we can swap out.
That'd be very interesting.
Because what's our default right now? Is it just blank?
Just blank.
Just blank. I think there might be like a subtle pattern texture back there, but yeah, it's mostly just a dark gray.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So that's my list.
So you had asked me to go back in back into the pages of history yet again and see because we had done some asset polls over on the forums to see what people wanted or requested, and these are about from 2015 was the last time we did one of these. So I can't remember how I narrowed it all down.
I want to say we had voting rounds.
Maybe we did.
So yeah, we would do rounds
how I
and
did
then
all this.
voted it down.
This is like 2.5, 3 years ago.
We were taking it very seriously back then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I when I did this one, I divided into two because at one point Taco had told us it was better to do a whole bunch of assets at once from like one map. So I divided it into, what map would you like to see them just take and give you a ton of assets from? What single map? And then also just single assets by themselves. So I separated those two things. So for the maps, the top vote getter was the Origin Interior. Has a lot of nice looking pieces to it.
I would have gone Solane.
Did we have Solane stuff in 2015?
Do we have the interior or the bridge of the obelisk carrier as a Foundry asset?
No, but we got one. I think it was the.
It's the Dyson Joint Command interior.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we did get that.
Which is in the same style.
So you could use it as the bridge of a Solane carrier if you wanted to. Which, in fact, I was considering doing in a Foundry mission, if I ever get back to that one. Let's see. Second place on that poll was the Fleet Starbase. The top level of that has a lot of nice stuff in it. Third on the list was the Solane interior. Fourth on the list was the new Intrepid/Voyager interior.
Yeah, that almost made my list.
Lots of cool, obviously canon-looking consoles and chairs and tables and all kinds of stuff. Next one is Nimbus 3. There's lots of fun stuff you could have from Nimbus 3. I think what would be cool to have out of that map is the big satellite towers with the dishes on them. The Romulan flotilla, yeah, I'd love to have some pieces out of that. That's lots of good stuff. Fleet Embassy, especially the ops room or whatever, the command center, whatever you call that. Next one is Romulan player ship, and then Kobali Prime and the Alachi interiors. So that was the vote to what map would people like to take a whole crap ton of assets from? And then the single player, or the single asset one. So you guys still there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just went just like completely silent. I'm like, did I lose internet connection or something?
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Just going through the list right now.
You're just listening. Okay.
I was flashing back to 2015 there for a sec.
Yeah, basically, yeah, we're flashing back to 2015. Okay, so for just single assets, the top vote getter was walls from the Origin interior. I think especially when you get off the bridge and into some of the corridors, they have some really cool walls. Next one was transporter pads. So we have been having to build our own transporter pads forever. When there are a few around in the game, especially like there's Romulan ones off of New Romulus. Not sure if there's any. Are there specifically Klingon transporter pads around? There probably are.
Yeah,
Yes,
there are.
of course there is. Just the beam-in point at the Qantas ground map. That has one.
Fleet Starbase as well, and then the let's see. Yeah, that kind of covers it, but yeah, those are relatively large and kind of
I feel that
in a generic style. They're like it's kind of harder to imagine separating those off. But yeah, the Romulan ones, especially because those are actually baked into some of the colony props,
which we do have, but they've got lots of stuff with them.
I feel the need to point out at this point that we do actually have a Federation transporter pad. However,
We have the room.
one of the
It's in a whole room.
few. Yeah, I was going to say is that it's one of the few assets we have that's attached to a room, and not just an object.
The problem is on that asset is that it is bugged, so that if you use it on a map and you're outside of the map, it'll start causing other things to disappear. So it is highly not recommended that you actually use the transporter room.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be careful with it because it's got like a viz region, or I don't know how to describe it. Basically, it calls like a bunch of things like that are outside of the room, except that it still happens when even if it's made invisible.
Not spawned yet. Yeah.
So if you're inside the space it occupies, it starts calling everything around it.
Yeah, I first started experimenting with that when we were playing around with making Starbase Magellan. And it was like, hey, let's just add this in. It's like, oh, wait a minute. No, this totally doesn't work.
If you're also there's the fact that the game engine apparently freaks out whenever you try to spawn a player inside it.
Yeah, it'll push you out in order to prevent you from getting stuck.
And by push you out, it
Really?
actually
I
puts you
problem.
between the transporter pad and the actual wall, so you are in fact stuck.
I should say if you're not trying to despawn it, because I think when we all saw that, we thought, oh, we'll be clever and put the transporter room inside an existing space, despawn it, and it looks like you're beaming down. And that of course causes all sorts of problems because whatever the viz region calling whatever is still there having an impact. So now you can see all the stuff that's, if you're not despawning, it's usually fine to use.
Well, even if you're not, if it's just there, I mean, you kind of, it's even if it's there and on the map, it can still be a problem. So I was just gonna say, just blanket recommendation, don't use it, because I don't imagine.
I have successfully used it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I've
used it as well. I mean.
Okay, I've had to advise some people recently, or semi-recently, that hey, that's actually kind of a problem if you just have it.
I think I still mostly build my own transporter pads more often than not, but there is one particular mission that I use it on. I've never had a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I personally have never used it because of the limitations involved with it. I mean, obviously it's a Federation transporter, and if you don't want to use a Federation transporter, no. But there's also the fact that since it's a room, that is a fundamental limitation on what you can do with it.
Yeah. There's been a few specific instances where I could use it. But yeah.
Okay. So anyway.
So the next two on this particular poll, on the highest vote getters, are Romulan and Klingon doors of the variety that will open and close automatically. I know there's some nice looking doors that they put in around Legacy Romulus time for both factions, because we got those doors on the Kittenberg colony. How awesome would those be?
The place where the player character gets to see Admiral Tanay and Sela meet for a diplomatic conference. That particular map has some of the coolest looking doors in the entire game.
It's funny how sort of simple we can be. We love doors. and walls.
Any other podcast? We love doors.
Well,
Just give us a door and we're happy.
Mhm.
See, the part of what makes those doors cool, though, is that they have that light up region in the middle of them, where you can tell at a glance from a distance whether it's a locked door or an unlocked door. So you don't have to constantly wander around. It's like, hey, does this open if I... Nope.
Let's see. The next one is warp cores. Obviously, we have a number of engineering maps.
You don't
that
actually have
include-
very many with baked-in warp cores, even. I mean, there are examples, but not many. One thing I
let's
would
see.
really
mean,
love
we
to
do
have is
one
the
warp
Romulan
core. We do have one warp core in the Foundry, which is the Defiant one, isn't it?
We've also got the Warwick interior, which is the Sovereign style
Mhm.
engineering.
It's
we've
shot
always-
up, so
It-
that's
It's
Yeah.
problematic.
I mean, it's not too bad, but
Um,
yeah, it's got a few burn marks here and there.
But this would be the core by itself as a placeable
Mhm.
asset.
We do we have a warp core. We've got some warp core assets that are the old civilian ones with the purple glow.
Yeah. They are appropriate for Dominion faction and neutral, but I wouldn't use them for... wait, actually, you know what? There is a Klingon asset, which it's not labeled a warp core, but it is large enough, and it actually does look similar to the way that the Klingon warp core props look.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I think they're-
generators in science, civilian, or science, civilian, Cardassian, there are ways you can basically rig up a warp core one way or the other. Even with
But
somebody
I
doing
can
that.
think of a
Klingons also
number
have
of
these giant cylindrical whatever things.
Yeah.
That are like Klingon style.
Yep, that's just a Klingon generator.
I can think of a number of maps, especially like player ship interiors that have warp cores on them that you could take that asset out of and make it a placeable thing.
Like, the Romulan one.
Yeah,
would
that
sell
one
them.
would be really cool.
Especially since it like spins and moves and stuff.
I think if you
I know Foundry assets can spin and move because the Cardassian generators do that.
Yeah, Power Core does that too.
I kind of wonder if they ever did add the Romulan interior, that they would have to add the core as a separate asset.
Hard to say.
Potentially, because they run into trouble with animated stuff on Foundry maps.
Oh, I just thought of something. Speaking of Romulan interiors, the Lisette Bridge. What makes that different? The Lisette is a scimitar, and
Scimitar Bridge.
but the Lisette has a full interior in that style, not just the bridge you have for the player ship.
Well, I thought
from
they
reused
reused
from the mission
the Romulan interior for that.
I'm not
some
100% sure
some
on it.
pieces of it,
There's
and
some
then some
unique
pieces
aspects
of
Like player ship
some of-
doesn't have an armory.
some of it was
Yeah,
reminiscent of
It's a tweaked version of it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, I mean, it's a different layout, but I think it's the same asset set as the Romulan interior.
I think they used some rooms from what's his name's flagship.
Give.
Hakeem.
That's
Yeah.
heavily modified. Like
Yeah.
it's mostly Borgified. So it does reuse some rooms from the player ship interior, but it's not a complete reskin of the player ship interior. So it's using that same, basically, you can just call it the same content pack. But it just builds out new hallways and rooms for it.
Speaking of Hakim's flagship, that's a lovely map. I love that map.
There are certain aspects of that map that I feel would need to be fixed, possibly, because the last time I was on it, I noted that in certain parts of the map, the geometry that you could interact with and the geometry you could see didn't actually match each other. Like, there's like one place where there's like a table or something, and you can just walk straight through it. The mission that you're playing, when you are in this interior, that effect is actually while it feels surreal, it's not necessarily wrong for the mission, because in the mission you're not really there, or because it tells you are messing with your head and trying to make you.
You're in the process of being brainwashed. So
yeah. So any other assets on that list?
oh, lots.
Oh, jeez.
Have you met Foundry authors?
No, I was just going through the top 10.
Okay.
These are the ones that essentially won the poll. Okay, so the next one is Iconian gateways for ground.
Yes.
Because we don't have a placeable gateway. We have them on a couple of maps, but none placeable.
Iconian missions were more in vogue back then.
A little bit, back in 2015. Next one is flight points for EV suits. You know, the thing where you click the button and you fly there.
Oh, yeah. That's a really old thing that Cryptic Semi dropped, but it'd be useful to have.
Not sure.
The next one...
I gotta wonder how complicated that would be.
You never know.
The way I understand it, it's actually coded as a special enemy that you can't damage or target with normal abilities. You can, however, target it with a special ability that makes you fly towards it.
It's basically like lunge, because you can actually use lunge in a similar way against enemy NPCs. Like some that are on a high ledge. It's basically, I'm going to lunge it, and you kind of do the same flight path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Just it plays the EV suit flying animation instead of the person jumping animation.
Yeah, so that might be complicated, though, just having it being special enemy. And, so it depends on how they fully implement that.
Yeah, not only would we need the beacons, which I guess would technically be NPC contacts, but we would also need, or like an NPC group type asset, but it would also need some kind of whatever makes that power available on that map.
Yeah, so that's a lot of space magic.
True.
Man, no wonder they stopped doing it.
So the next one, and this is for you, Dragoon, is a bomb.
I told you that one's been on the list a long time.
And specifically what we're talking about when we say that is the little spatial charge that in a couple of cryptic missions you fix on a door or something to blow it open in a couple of the early Fed missions.
Yeah. The hilarious part about this is that with as many missions as Cryptic uses those things in, the only one currently available as a Foundry asset is stuck to a crate, and you have to hide the crate or make the crate part of the mission, in other words, in order to use this prop.
Yeah, because it's part of the old weapon store.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure is not in the game anymore, that particular weapon store.
It might still be over on Starbase 39 Sierra.
Also, it is actually part of the old Foundry map copies of ESD1 and ESD2.
Yeah.
See, that's where I was thinking it was from.
Yeah, we're just talking about the just main game, though. There might be there might be some crate props like that on Drozana too.
Well, they revamped the Drozana interior, and I don't think...
Well, I'm talking about the new one. Yeah, currently in-game.
I don't think the new Drozana has a bunch of crate stacks in it anywhere.
Yeah, in the back over by the Lobby store and the stuff like that.
Or by those
there. Right, but I don't think that
I'd have to look again, but I don't think that's a particular one now.
Yeah, so that's one of those things. Just like there might be similar like store type assets around that area.
Starbase 39 Sierra is, I think, the only interior map from launch that's an actual Federation. Wait. DS9 might have them. I just thought of that. So there's a bunch of weapon stores.
And even Starbase 39 has had some updates over the years.
Yeah,
and mostly they just gave Tanae Quinn's old office.
Yeah, and you still might see them around too in miscellaneous early Federation missions, even after the revamp. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. They didn't change the maps for all of those. They just changed the story.
Yeah. So moving on.
There's some interesting ones that were elsewhere on this list. A static effect for ground. Like we have in space, where it makes your mini map go staticky,
and or the TOS one. Those would be nice.
You mean like the film grain?
Yes.
As a placeable map effect.
Map white asset.
Well, I think what he's talking about the
like weather.
Yeah.
blocking out the mini map, like it does when you're in the tunnels of during Temporal Ambassador.
I know. But that's actually a special map of weather volume. The way it works, because I've actually I've tinkered with the one in space. And the way that works is that you place it like a weather volume effect, and when you're inside it, it does that.
Yeah, I think people are.
Yeah, and if they could take that one, just put it on the ground, which probably is not as easy as it sounds, because nothing ever is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how about this one? Medical beds in Klingon and Romulan styles.
I would add to that Selene and Lachi style, because we have those in missions.
That's true.
Like you remember the mission where you finally rescue Rina Kev? Well, she's strapped to an Alachi medical bed when you find her.
Oh, the ones that are kind of at a tilt?
Yeah. They're not flat, but,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we have made an art form out of requesting things over the many years of the Foundry.
And just to remind you guys, for the stuff that we mentioned in our list tonight, Zero did say, hey, it'd be good to, email that on in an actual list form, so they can actually take a look at it.
So we will be doing that.
Yeah, so we will be doing that. So we'll actually need a hard copy. So.
So yeah, that's our New Year's wish lists for the Foundry. One of the other things we want to mention tonight is I will be launching the 26th Century Foundry Mission Challenge in the coming week. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will reveal the challenge prompt, or at least part of it, because there's only a few people in the chat room, and no one else will see it by the time I post the thread.
There's 15. Come on, it's like every competitor might be in the chat room right now.
Well, then they will get an extra day or two for just as a present for watching the show live.
Okay.
Yay.
So, the overarching idea of this is that it's the 26th century. Earth is missing. There was an accident, which we will depict in the intro mission that we're going to build. And Earth was flung away into the Centaurus galaxy.
Centaurus A specifically, right?
Centaurus A specifically. And the Federation, along with some help from the Klingons and the Romulans, are going to put together a fleet to go find it. There's some sort of interference, which means we can't see exactly where it is, so we have to send a fleet and go search for it. And so our intro mission will stop there, and authors will be able to pick up where we left off. So the mission prompt for this first challenge is going to be to make a mission that's set immediately after the fleet arrives. And the only caveat that I'm going to put, the only other requirement that I'm going to put to people is that they're not going to be allowed to find Earth in this phase of the challenge. Because we want to save that for later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, there could be a number of different mission types you could make from this. Maybe you want to go out and, set up a special sensor platform somewhere, and maybe somebody, one of the locals, they don't like you doing that, so they attack, and, go from there.
I will say the way we have it set up is the player could be either a captain who has come forward in time from the 25th century, or a captain native to the 26th century, and just play it a little vague. But either way, the pilot episode or mission will kind of established how they got there and set them up as basically part of this task force, which includes the 3
flagships. Yeah, the Enterprise J, the Vulcus, and the Durgath. And we created some characters with help from the guys on the forums, and we'll have those available for people to use if they want to use them, or people can invent their own characters. But that will be the challenge: is make a mission that's about what goes on right as soon as the fleet arrives in the new galaxy. Because there's going to be a lot to do. You might have to secure the fleet's position. You might have to start the search for Earth. You might have to greet some of the locals. Figure out what's going on there. So yeah, I think this could be fun. We also developed some uniforms for 26th century Klingon, Romulan, and Federation personnel that we'll be making available for people to use if they want to. Or you can invent your own uniforms. What the heck, right?
Yeah, and there was also the contest Paul Sutherland put together, and he's through the submissions people have put there. You've also got a lot more options to choose from.
Yeah, I had some cool entries in that one. We're obviously we don't vet the missions to make sure they conform to anything particularly. Other than kind of the main prompt, is we encourage people to stick to that.
I do feel the need to point out that if your mission is obviously something that doesn't fit the challenge, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of votes.
Probably not.
Yeah, but that's just what Drogon's talking about with basic vetting. The one thing we will vet is the name of the author. If it is Gorgonauts, then no.
Yes. We don't let that guy enter challenges anymore.
Because we know he is making a mission, but he doesn't get to enter it in the challenge.
No, and this one is the I am making a mission for it, and it's been basically just the latest evolution of an ongoing project to make something that's not Starfleet Security or AEI. So the mission itself has been in the works for probably about a year, just with some of the assets that keep sort of transitioning over. I haven't been working on it throughout that whole time, but it's like, hey, it's existing. Definitely doesn't fit a challenge, but yeah, I'm just trying to make something that really kind of fleshes out the universe and the story and kind of gives us some elements to play with for later, especially when it comes to, say, villains.
Well, you're in a whole new galaxy, so you can meet whole new species who are, just as different as you can possibly think of.
Oh, yes. Maniacal laughter.
Mm-hmm. If you're one thing, if you're looking at, go ahead.
Oh, maybe have a race of sentient fungi that when you enter their ships, you don't actually see people, because it's a race of sentient fungi, and when you see them, they're just like splatches stuck to the walls.
So,
well, I was going to encourage people to look through the asset list and see if they could come up with any asset that could actually be used for a life form.
Borg incubator, Undine incubator. I use that for AEI.
There you go.
And yeah, some of the a lot of the Undine props, there are some miscellaneous crates that can make some pretty good stand-ins. I used one for sheep-like life form in Eons.
Did you guys remember the props that I used to represent the Vendorians in that mission I did?
There's the flora and fauna props that are basically just large tripod plants.
Well, specifically, these are the ones with eyeballs.
Oh yeah, those too.
So some of the alien plants have eyeballs, and those were the ones that I used for the Vendorians.
So, unlike AEI, there's no stipulation on where the mission starts.
Well, we did.
That's a question. We had talked about that at some point, didn't we?
Yeah, we did select a system too.
What did we select?
I'll go into sector space. It was just north of Seoul. So we do. It's basically we wanted somewhere where there wasn't any top 3 popping up. Yeah, and I think it's nice to aggregate those all together, because this is what people have done. I know people have done for AEI, where they play one and then they just kind of keep going through the list. So
Sure.
I think it's good to aggregate these all as part of this type of anthology.
Well, that's kind of what we wanted out of making these anthologies, is that people would play one and it's like, oh, I should play more of these.
Okay, it might be Tenebia. Let me go check that one out.
That sounds familiar because I think I was looking for something relatively close to Earth
Mhm.
that didn't have anything
Yeah,
in top 3, but could be like within a short
question, though.
warping distance of Earth.
Can KDF missions be placed there?
I don't think so.
Let me go
The way
check.
I remember it, most of Federation space is off limits to KDF, and that I believe is part of Federation space.
KDF can go there, though.
I mean, you can fly there now, but there aren't any KDF missions that use that point, and I don't think we have the ability to have a KDF player start a Foundry mission.
I'm pretty sure that's... Okay, so my AEI, or my 26E project right now is set to Allegiance Klingon, and it starts... Let me double check this. I had it set at Tenebia. So
Also, they
either would-
expanded it when they revamped the...
yeah, when they redid the sector block, they may have...
Because they opened up a bunch of new doors for us to use. I would like to encourage people to make KDF missions for this 26th century, because I won a Durgath class during this last promo, so I want to play it.
Mine's going to be KDF, because I'm reaching the point too where it's just like, if you start, like, I've got 14, 15 missions now, so I'm actually having to think like, well, there's going to be a limit at some point for how many Fed missions I can have. So this one for me is going to be a KDF. KDF is so I'm not going to do
I have in the past actually went and intentionally made missions as KDF just because so few people make KDF missions.
Yep, Tenebia is totally okay for KDF.
Cool.
Ah, perfect. And we're good. So we'll have everybody start their missions at the Tenebia system.
Which is really,
I will... Go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say I only picked that one because it fit the criteria of the pilot, but I guess it's as good a location as any.
It works, yeah. We should have them all at the same place. So I will be making a post with all of the details on the forums very soon, within the next couple of days. And we will get that started, and we'll have 5 weeks for building and another 3 weeks for voting. And hopefully we will not run into any downtime, but if we do, that's just how that goes.
Oh, I just cut out for a bit. What were you guys saying?
That's all right. We were just wrapping up the 26th century stuff.
Okay.
So for the last bit of the show, I thought I'd have Dragoon go into the Foundry and build something.
Okay.
So I've got a little prompt for you. I think Johnny Snowball will like this one. I'm not sure if that worked. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, I think my internet just completely died for a few seconds.
Oh, we're back to doing these.
Yeah, this is another 70s art challenge.
That's okay. I enjoyed these.
Because these are fun. If you haven't already, follow the... let me find what the actual thing is. It's at 70s Sci-Fi Art on Twitter.
Yes.
This particular one that I've just given Dragoon is called House of the Future. It's from a Motorola advertisement in the 1960s.
Is it like the Dymaxion house? Or do you remember what that was?
I don't.
Okay. Freeman Dyson, the guy who came up with the whole Dyson sphere concept, I think it was the same guy. One of his ideas was the House of the Future. It's kind of like it's the sort of style that you have in the Jetsons, but it was actually building something kind of like that. One of the things that he came up with as an idea is that instead of having static shelves, have actual cabinets with moving shelves where you can rotate the shelves to cycle through bins of stuff. Was it actually practical? I have no idea. No one actually mass produced them. They look interesting, though.
It's always funny to see past people's visions of what our present would look like, what they thought it was going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things
they thought
with
we'd have flying cars and everything.
One of the things with the Dymaxion house that was actually practical was that he came up with a reason to have a dome from a perspective of reducing the amount of efficiency or inefficiency of your heating and cooling. Because obviously, the dome shape, it reduces the surface area of the house and thus the amount of heat it absorbs from the outside or radiates outward. But also there is the fact that if you put the heating elements in certain places in a dome-shaped house, it'll just naturally have the warm or cool air flow through the entire house. And you don't need to blow it through the house through ducts. Just one of those things where you have to build the house as a unit in order to make this effect work. You can't just throw rooms together.
So did you put the picture on the stream so people
yes.
can see what we're talking about here?
I think that only the original prototype ever actually got built of those things.
So people are asking in the chat room about if you only have a Federation test character, can you create Klingon missions? Well, you can.
Yes.
But it creates errors when you try and play test your maps.
Yeah. So you won't be able to test it, so it's not advised because you do want to be able to.
The trick to it is you build it as a Federation mission. You play test all of the ground stuff with it being built as a Federation mission. But things you have to remember is that if you use mobs that are friendly to the KDF for your original play testing, you need to change those to something that's hostile to the KDF before you publish it. Because
that's one way to do it. And of course, the other way to do it is to make a Klingon test character.
You could do that too. I think that technically counts against your character limit, though. You only have one free character slot.
Although
it takes up a regular character slot.
Yeah. Although what you could do is that if you know you're going to be building a Klingon mission for a while, just delete your Federation test character and then just create a Klingon one. And then once you're done that mission,
you don't lose your missions if you do that. Of course, if you're like Mark here and you've leveled your Foundry test character to 60, you might not want to do that.
Yeah. I often joke about how my Foundry test character has better gear than half the people you see in random pugs. Because I've just used the character that much for stuff.
All right, so Dragoon, what do you think about building this little apartment complex here?
Honestly, of all the challenges you've given me, it's not as bad. I think the only real challenge is I'm going to have to fudge some vertical values, which are always fun to watch me do.
Well, this is an exercise in building floors.
Oh, God.
On multi-floor buildings.
You know who tried to, what mission kind of attempted something like this? Cold Blue Space Part 8.
I just thought of something. Is it possible to fake an elevator by rapidly spawning a succession of platforms slightly higher than each other?
Oh, God.
I wouldn't do that.
I've faked elevators in the past, but I think the trick that I used to make it work previously is something that is no longer doable because, the way the trick worked was that if an object spawned around the player, the game would simply move the player to the nearest from a spherical perspective, location that was free space and not inside the object. So if you spawned a block on top of the player and the top of the block was the closest airspace, it would move you to the top of the block. And you could do this as like a way of faking an elevator. But the problem with this, of course, is that now the way it works, it seems to actually look for ground and not putting on top of assets when you do that. But what I was thinking, though, is that if you do a lesser version of this, where you don't spawn an object that surrounds the player, but instead you just a little bit, like nudge the player up like a foot at a time, so that it doesn't like go around you. It's just like a little bit, like just enough that the game engine moves you up each time an object spawns.
I think it would be a lot of hassle for not much payoff.
Yeah,
This is true. This is also one of the reasons why I made a teleporter my new feature request, is because of the fact that you just like walked to the doors, like choose the floor you would like to go to. Zap.
Yeah, you could use it as a turbo lift real easy. So Dragoon, I have some advice for you on building multi-story buildings.
Okay.
Build each floor independently and then move them into place afterwards when you're done.
That is a good plan. I was just kind of setting up a foundation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, is this intended
So
to be
you built-
from the inside or outside?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean,
That
if it's
was
from the
part of
inside,
the,
you can't really
description.
see any of the building.
so I would
the
say
bottom
outside to match the
Yeah.
the visuals of the artwork. I would say outside.
I'm going to go with something that you can walk into and walk out of.
Or maybe like you could walk into the bottom floor or the middle floor or something like that, but you want to see the rest of it.
Okay, I was wrong. The Dimexian house is the creation of Buckminster Fuller. But yeah, you see where that's going. Just one of those like things that's just like stupidly futuristic, and it was
No,
something
it-
people came up with back in the 50s, I think.
It reminds me of the bunker from Lost.
See, it's one of the things with this round design here is that, one, it doesn't scale up at all, period. It doesn't. Because, like what I mentioned, is that he came up with this set of reasons for having a specific size and shape to the building, and you would have to redesign it to change the size. Bit of a downside to this design, but, you know.
I'll bring it to you now,
One
guys.
thing with-
I am not going to be able to make this pink.
The colors are negotiable.
Tan is an acceptable substitute, I suppose.
What you can do is use a backdrop like purple haze.
Oh, yes. The sky file. Says, yeah, you choose a sky file that's a purple haze, and it'll make everything on the map look a different color.
Slightly pinkish.
So I've been doing two things recently, which are a little bit Foundry-esque. The first is I've been playing The Sims 4, which has, where you can build houses and stuff, which is kind of fun. You basically do it by room by room, which is kind of a nice change from the Foundry where we have to build, wall by wall. It would be nice to have sort of room editors where you piece together rooms and you can alter the sizes and that sort of thing, which is actually a little bit what like Neverwinter has. And the other thing is I built a Lego set the other day for the first time in like forever. I got a little bonus at work and I was like, I'll buy something that I wouldn't otherwise buy because, that's what a bonus is for. So, I bought myself a Lego set. It was kind of fun.
I have actually done that several times in the past simply because it would happen to be, well, either I had a specific reason for wanting to do it. Like in one case, I wanted to build a model of something that I'd seen a picture of that I looked at it and I'm like, that looks like it's made out of Legos already. Should be easy to make a duplicate of it with Legos. Well, the problem was that I had decided that I wanted to use entirely black Legos for this, and acquiring enough black Legos turned out to be harder than you would think. Because nowhere sells kits that are just black Legos, unless you want to go to their website and custom order them, which
of course.
is a bit pricey.
Expensive, yes. Yeah, I used to do things like that when I was a kid. In fact, I actually built a bridge for the Enterprise E out of Legos when I was a kid. I never had enough of one color to make things the colors that I want them to, so I just made them whatever and used my imagination. That probably helped with the sort of improvisational design work that we do in the Foundry. If I was fine with a castle wall being every brick is a different color, then I'm fine with whatever we can build in the Foundry.
So, fun fact.
It's one of those things where practicing building things eventually just becomes second nature, even if you're building things out of other things.
So, fun fact, this map is actually the map I built San Francisco on for EVA Resolutions.
It was sort of the go-to map, or one of the go-to maps before we got the empty map, because it had that nice big flat area.
I also use this one for the colony in Continuity SF 1.4, and my latest mission also used it for a open roaming map as well.
I used it for the Romulan Senate building way back in the day.
So many fun things.
I'm just playing around right now my 26th Century project. I'm like, designing an alien NPC and running out of parts that we didn't use for the 26th Century uniforms. Like, hey, that'd be great. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, or at least the ones I help put together.
I'm actually pondering if maybe I should toss in the Dark Soldier guys that I came up with for that one Foundry mission I did, because I never established where they were from, just that they were non-humanoid life forms.
I've been playing with taking things to the extreme in the Alien gen with the sliders, and created some kind of interesting looking guys.
Well, the thing with the Dark Soldiers is that they're actually proportioned about the same as humanoids. It's just that the art assets I chose to build them were as unorganic as possible. I intentionally made it where their skin ends and their armor or whatever it begins, or even if they're actually wearing armor. Maybe it's actually an exoskeleton. Yeah, Buckminster Fuller had some weird ideas, and he was one of the best concept artists of his day. I think the main reason that they never actually attempted to mass produce the Dymaxion house, from what I've heard anyways, is that he was never able to settle on a finished design. He kept going back. It's like, oh wait, no, this needs to be better. This needs to be this, that, this, etc.
Artists never actually completed, only abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually seen a map like that, or a building like that, in the foothills of Colorado. It looked like that from the outside, anyway. I'm not sure if it was something like that in the inside.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, because if you look closely at it, it's actually very similar to the way Airstream trailers are put together. So it's not actually terribly outside what people actually build. It's just he put a unique spin on it that made it more interesting.
Okay, so we've talked about what we'd love to have in the Foundry for the new year. So what are you guys looking forward to in the regular game for this new year for 2018?
Dominion.
Victory is life.
DS9.
Victory is life.
Oh yeah, revamp DS9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we get to blow it up and build a new one.
Can't we just put things on top of other things? Don't need to blow it up every time.
No, blow it up.
No.
No, they're not going to blow it up.
You know that when
Let
they
go of the
had
past.
the
Kill it if you have to.
2800, if Taco had gotten the okay to rebuild the DS9 interior, they could have used that as an excuse to blow up DS9 and then just have a completely different DS9 station there.
Didn't they do that in the books?
Yes, they did.
Now,
And,
I'm sorry.
And I have never liked that artwork personally.
It looks absurdly futuristic.
We do not need a rehash of the old ESD.
ESD 1.0 was another one of those things that it just looked impressively futuristic.
It was
I
impressively
love
not the original Earth Space Dock.
Which is why I'm perfectly happy that we found a use for it as Starbase Magellan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very nice other Starbase. It wasn't what everybody was familiar with. So that is why they're never ever going to blow up Deep Space Nine, because it's their nostalgia touchstone.
Yeah. One thing that occurs to me studying these floor plans for the Dymaxion house is that it actually was very small. I mean, like 2-bedroom apartment level small. The only one.
In there. Spec.
Now
and as Zero is like, how about we just blow it up and don't bother to build a new one?
all they need is just a lawn chair floating in space facing the wormhole, so someone can keep watch. I mean, that's all DS9 is for anyway. I mean,
just have Kirkland floating in a spacesuit. Kirkland's still here.
Because I mean, he just takes people's names as they come through, and he just radios them on to Starfleet, and there we go.
Kirkland here.
Yes, we know Kirkland. I mean, we left you there for a reason. Kirkland here. Kirkland now talks like a Pokemon.
So something just occurred to me about Drogon. Are you one of those people who plays Forza? You seem like the kind of person who might like playing Forza.
I have. On occasion. Forza 6.
There's a 7 now?
Yep, just came out this year.
Yeah. The irony is I love racing. I'm not very good at racing games.
I've played racing games, and the only time I like playing a racing game is when I have a booth to sit in and a proper steering wheel. Joysticks, no.
I've gotten better at racing games since two things happened. One, I drove a Corvette Stingray 2016 model around a racetrack with a racing instructor sitting beside me to actually tell me what to do. So that actually was an education in actually how to do that type of driving. And then also watching IndyCar. Now I'm actually getting good at racing games.
So, Drogon, combining two things that you like, have they ever come out with a racing VR game?
There's a couple that I know of. One that I've dabbled with. Unfortunately, I needed to reset like my whole control scheme to get that one to work better. And I needed a steering wheel. I don't have an actual steering wheel for my computer.
Seems like one of those things I could see you investing in.
Only if you could put it in the Stig helmet.
Needs a VR headset that looks like the Stig helmet.
Yes.
I mean, it's theoretically possible to actually make a VR headset that's built into a helmet.
Or you could just basically cut out parts of a helmet to fit a conventional VR headset.
Yeah. I mean, add the headset to the helmet, add the helmet to the headset. Yeah, either order works, I suppose.
Finally, my carpet's at the right height. All right, everybody can see where I'm going with this, right?
You wonder if this is how it is for like map makers like Taco in Cryptix tools.
Oh,
Place an asset,
3D editor.
move it a tiny little bit, look at it, move it a tiny little bit, look at it, move it a tiny little bit.
All right, so I'm looking at the back wall of the apartment, and I've kind of got that curtain-y thing going. Don't know that I've got anything that remotely looks like that.
Curtain thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
You got the triangle
Federation
curtains?
Oh, you can't do a triangle though. You can get the blue curtains though with a rectangular style, with some of the banners.
Okay, I might look at those, and then maybe I'll do that as a partition.
What I'm also thinking is that let's see. You could do like a wall of those and put something in front of it if we have something that is triangle shaped and flat. It's a tall order.
Well, I kind of want to put some kind of a wall back there, just because I feel like it would be structurally sound otherwise.
Yes, you got a wall there. I'm thinking that. Let's see. Those aren't. Dang it! Those aren't steep enough. I was thinking you could also like put ramps side on, just so they're poking through a little bit in a sort of flat blue wall of curtain.
No,
but
I don't
yeah,
have enough space for that.
No, yeah, because they're too shallow. And I'm just thinking through any other triangle assets, sides of buildings.
You know what might actually look kind of good? Cardassian wall.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Because that's kind of got some of the similar, like, slightly Art Deco-ish styles to it. Obviously not like a perfect replication, but it kind of fits the theme.
We definitely don't look for a one-to-one.
Inspired by.
Yeah. And it's not like we're going to grade you on this either.
Oh, come on. I can feel you guys judging me constantly.
Well, yeah, but not for this.
New Year's resolution to get part 3 out.
We all know how long New Year's resolutions last.
Yeah.
Several years so far.
Yeah, I've been working on my latest SSF mission, and basically for the last week it's been tweaking dialogue. There's like one particular dialogue section that I've put more time into this one dialogue than any other in SSF or any other in my Foundry history. It's because it's like I want to get it that perfect, that it basically, just thread that needle, because it's one of those scenes where it could turn out really, really well or not. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
Romulan glass looks really weird in preview, but I can see it, so I can place with it.
What you'll want to do is figure out how tall those are.
Judging for a few things.
Yeah, I gotta say, mathing Foundry placement really doesn't help much until you need to put several objects next to each other and make them line up.
Or do stairs.
Well, I mean, that's putting several objects next to each other and making them line up. I mean, not in a straight line, but
Well, I'd like to do.
I've definitely always used math for my stairs.
Yeah, for me, I'd use snap to grid, and then actually, I don't have to do any math on that one or technically I do, but it's just like, okay, the next stair up is 0.3 up. Next stair up is 0.3 up from the previous one.
Like I once took. Well, you remember what I was mentioning earlier about making custom transporter props? Well, that's how I would do those. Is I would take those Klingon tabletops. Like, okay, this is the number of feet I need to separate them from each other. So, okay, this one goes down 3 feet, then the next one goes down 3 feet, all lined up perfectly. And then you offset these by this much and up by this much, and then they fit into position perfectly. And then you have this neat hexagonal grid when you're done.
One of the things I always kind of got to remember is reset. Set the y relative to 0 altitude.
Yeah, indeed.
I really wish it would remember that you turned that off.
You just duplicate S.
I usually.
You're thinking of snap to grid.
Yeah.
One thing you can do to get around that is basically just place one asset, and then if you need to create another asset, you just duplicate it and then double-click it, and then select what that becomes. Also useful if you want to have something with baked-in triggers. So you only have to set it once, and then you just duplicate the asset that's going to be spawning or despawning. That's how I was able to actually build Apex within the challenge window, because I was like, hey, I built an entire map like that, so now when it's done, the whole thing the whole map section disappeared, because I just put that in from the very beginning.
They help if I use glass walls instead of glass floors.
Well, glass floors allow you to actually see where those things are going, to actually see how they're going to be setting up.
Well, I'm not that interesting right now, so you guys are going to have to be more interesting.
Okay. I was doing a quick and dirty Photoshop, which I'm now ready to show people.
Uh-oh.
Here, I'll put it in our chat for you guys. This is for you, Dragoon, or Duncan.
Wait, you're putting it in our chat?
I'll post in a sec.
I'm just going to quick upload it to Imgur so I can stick it in the whatever you call that, the Twitch chat.
Here for everyone on the stream.
This is what Zero and Duncan were suggesting. Just blow up Deep Space Nine and just leave a guy in a lawn chair to watch it.
Is that Fernando Alonso?
Yes, it is. It's one of the many places Fernando would rather be.
But McLaren's got such a promising partnership next year.
Well, yeah, for next year. For the last 3 years.
Oh wait, that's
in
2019, not 2018. That's going to be a while.
All right, Dragoon. Let's see. Where are you at now?
I've got some glass walls placed.
Some walls, huzzah! As I wait for the one in the stream to load. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good.
And the glass overlaps, but there's not really much I can do about that.
No, because it's not quite wide enough.
Yeah. Oh well. Probably do the back half as a solid wall, so.
This is just a quick and dirty one anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. Trying to remember what you could put in the corner as a column. There's just like a straight pole with nothing sticking out of it.
Pillar black.
There's a couple different types.
Ship support for something that's a little bit more flat.
Hmm.
This is exciting. We are watching Dragoon work.
Yes.
See, this is why I never live stream me working in the Foundry.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
much.
Not alone anyway, because obviously we have to, be entertaining. Otherwise, it's a little boring.
See, I'm still working on Starfleet security stuff, and maybe I'll have a mission out. Well, if I stop playing Terra and get it down to back playing Foundry again. Could even be like, depending on how the dialogue shapes up, because that's I've gotten my major map builds done. One needs a little bit more polishing, just to put in the stuff that basically I'm waiting to the last minute, because it's all the stuff that spawns in, spawns out, that blocks the player's progress. So you don't have to worry about objective triggers breaking. But yeah, I'm just testing one map out right now. It's the big final culmination map, and it is quite a visual map.
I keep building stuff in Terraria instead of the Foundry. It's impressively distracting.
So I've been working a little bit on. I've got a series of like patrol missions that I want to do for the 26th century. That going to be like maybe 3-4 maps at most. And I've got one which is going to be cool. You're going to be like going through an abandoned space station, or is it?
Ah.
And you're going to meet a friendly alien, or is he friendly?
Well, one of the fun things with classification R3 life forms, which is one of the things that I liked about using the Dark Soldiers in that mission, was that when people are typically scanning, looking for, other people, they don't scan for those. I mean, it's kind of like in TOS with the Horta. You do your little tricorder scan, you see moving, and you have to stop and think about it for a few seconds to realize it's actually alive.
Oh, let's see. For my mission, I've got this little guy who, well, actually, he's not little. I went to really the extremes with the sliders. And I come up with the idea that maybe he changes color. I seen somebody do this in a Foundry mission one time where the alien race changed color based on emotional state, which is, obviously something we can do with Foundry costumes. Just replace NPC with a new one with a different skin color, and there you go.
What if you were to do like camouflage, where he keeps changing color to match his surroundings?
Yeah, that's an idea. Of course, the really funny part is I ran into him where I was starting to write some dialogue, and I was like, "Wait a minute, yeah, I'm writing lines for Gollum." Yes, we will help you, my precious.
Curse you, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Everything is derivative of something else.
Yep. As the old saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun. It's all a variation of something that's come before.
Even a lot of Tolkien stuff came from old Scandinavian mythology.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his concept of, like elves, orcs, and goblins and stuff was based off of the races from Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the whole concept of light elves and dark elves is something he borrowed from Norse mythology.
Here's something that's kind of funny. Is originally they were called gnomes. If you look at some of the history of Middle Earth volumes and some of the things that show his early writings, he had lots of different names that he went through for these things before he settled on what eventually was in the books.
Well, one of the interesting things with Norse mythology is that it's not entirely clear if dwarf was simply a different way of saying dark elf.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you read the descriptions in Norse mythology of the dwarves and the dark elves, they lived in caves under mountains. Both races did. And both races had a fondness for metalworking. Is it actually the same thing? Yeah, who knows? The people who wrote those stories died 700 years ago.
Well, you can kind of see that in Tolkien's depictions of the Noldor. They call them the deep elves. They're a little bit dwarvish. They like working with metals and smithing and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, because it's the way in the Norse stuff it was written is Svartalfur, which literally translated into English means dark elves.
AEI Judge Cat's making noises in the background now. She's found one of her toys and it's just like, play with me now.
Oh.
And cats, they want what they want when they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And they may or may not be opposed to standing on your face to get it.
Not unlike gamers. I was marveling the other day at, okay, you guys know all that controversy that came out about Battlefront 2 and its microtransaction
Yes.
stuff and that format.
That was just one of those things where I read the stuff and it's like, okay, so you can grind for a day, or you can pay $10 and get the same effect.
Well,
I don't see why people went all insane about it.
It wasn't just a day. Like it was like 400 hours of gameplay to get some of these items.
Well, yeah, but
it was a bit on the ridiculous side.
Well,
Stowe has a much better balance of playtime versus paying, I would say.
Well, the thing is, though, even in Stowe, you have a lot of things where you buying it with actual money costs a lot, but acquiring it by grinding in game is ridiculous.
There's some, yeah.
For example, getting one of the 9 packs, those cost a lot, but collecting enough dilithium to
get 12,000 Zen.
Okay, if you get it on sale, you might be able to get a 9-pack for as little as 5 or 6 thousand Zen, somewhere around in there. But the dilithium exchange rate, I don't remember what it currently is. It's something like 350 or 400-ish.
Oh no, it's way lower.
Oh, it's lower than that now.
Yeah,
or maybe think of champions in question. I don't know. But even so, even if it was like, say, 250, 6,000 Zen at 250 dilithium per. Oh man, that is a lot.
Well, my original point was the Reddit boards for Battlefront were like some of the absolute worst for complaining about all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go now and look at them, just a couple of months later, all that upset and rage and salt and whatever, it's all gone, and it's all just people asking for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of
it's all just people making requests.
And to have that as like the most commented Reddit thread, it was a powder keg ready to blow, and it just basically hit the zeitgeist, and then it became a thing to comment. So that only has so much inertia, and it'll peter out. And I've seen it happen with games like Destiny, where
it's not the first.
Where, especially like around release, that one gets a little bit more flack, and then as it goes on, then you sort of stabilize in normal community dynamics.
Well, to be honest, to try that one.
Part of the reason why I don't feel like complaining about loot box type mechanics is that games that have a lingering world that lives on a server, you have to have constant revenue for the company. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly sell your customers new things.
Yeah. Shooters have been dealing too with the problem of how do you actually monetize DLC and still avoid problems with splitting populations between those who have map packs and those who don't have map packs. And microtransactions have actually come out to be a really good way to sort of shift the cost from the stuff that people want to play to the stuff that people are willing to buy. So
the way I understand the way that the most recent Street Fighter games do that is that they have online multiplayer, which is awesome, but they also have paid DLC characters, which it's one of those things where the way it works is that you're not allowed to use a character unless you've done the paid DLC thing. However, getting the crap kicked out of you by them, hey, that's fair game.
That one, the fighting game model is kind of a little bit more akin to what the shooters are doing, because those are, new fighters are primary game content. So that's a little bit harder to go with. For games like Titanfall and Halo, it's all cosmetic items. So that is a little bit better of a model because gamers get the full content package, but there is additional content for those willing to pay for it. So, and that usually funds things like map packs, and that keeps populations healthy and stable. Halo 5 and Titanfall too were both heavily into this method. And those worked out really well.
Speaking of
one thing that I thought of as an analogy when people were talking about how much time it took to unlock the various characters in Battlefront was my experience of doing a similar thing with this old GameCube game called Gauntlet Dark Legacy. See, because one thing that most people don't know about the game because they've never played it is that the game, in fact, has 17 playable character classes. And unlocking all of them is extremely challenging and not something that you can easily do. But it's not one of those things where you actually like repetitively grind to do it. It's one of those things where it's kind of like a Nintendo hard method of unlocking characters, where you have to complete this mini game, and the various characters each have their own level of difficulty of the mini game, and some of them are just really easy. Seriously, some of them are very easy. Some of them are, let's just put it as either you do it right or you fail. Some of them I actually never managed to unlock because of that aspect of it. It's just I just never managed to get it just right. So even today, my best effort on it resulted in me having a game save file with only 15 playable character classes. Oh well.
So speaking of things that Cryptic can sell to gamers, and in fact something that I will buy, Discovery ships. I want them. I saw a thing today.
I think it's inevitable.
I'm sure it is, but I want them now. I saw a thing today of the upcoming Eagle Moss Discovery lineup of all the different Federation and Klingon ships that they're going to be putting out, and man, those look cool. I was like, I want to fly those in stow, like right away. But I'm sure it's coming.
If Hero's still around, she's probably trying to. Oh, she is still around. Ooh.
I'm just trying to say that, like, yes, I'm making a little too much sense. Yes, I am totally a human gamer person. Yes, I am from this planet and know the customs and cultures, and not an alien.
That was a little too specific of a denial. I think you're an alien.
Ceronius's denial is also a little suspicious.
Unconvincing, perhaps.
Yeah, I have to do the Kale speak of Chris.
We don't talk about uncupping content.
Oh no, this is the one for Discovery content. It's the Star Trek Online. It's a CBS licensed game, so and that's it.
Well, it'd be silly for them not to. So of course they're coming at some point.
At some point,
it's just whenever the timing works out for them, that's when we'll get them.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it the Priority One interview that they were talking about this, and just the fact though that they plan their content out like year and a half in advance, and
advance,
and they really don't have the insider info on.
And Discovery is a ongoing product that it's hard for them to jump into the middle of that. So I would probably set my sights on like any missions involving Discovery content as well in advance. I mean, we're not going to see those in the near future.
No.
More little things like the lightbox.
I just want ships to fly at this point. And,
we'll see.
And nifty Klingon customization options.
Oh yeah, those would be great.
Yeah. I want Cole's uniform. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Zero says yes, it was Priority One.
Yeah, that was a good interview.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're nearing the end of our time limit here.
Yep, I'm trying to wrap this up.
Yeah, so we've got
one level basically done.
Yeah.
I just changed my plans and go from the interior instead of the exterior.
I like the fact that too is like, Dragoon said at the start of the challenge, oh yeah, this isn't going to be as hard as the previous ones. Well, we've kind of it's the vertical build. The vertical build is a little deceptive for the.
I'll put it to you this way: building this is a lot like building a sky castle, except it's not in the sky.
Well, sky castles can be pretty easy though, because you just set it up like, hey, it goes up plus 100, and then I just build my stuff out, and there we go.
Now, in fairness,
well,
I mean, another half hour, and I could have just dialed in my offset and put in the rest of the floors, copy paste.
Yeah, it's just figuring out exactly where you need all your Z values to be is probably the hardest part of doing a build like this.
Mm-hmm.
See, like he, screwed that one up there.
Yeah.
When I did the Betarana interior, there were certain aspects of it that I did that were very simple to put together. I just threw a few things down, poof, done. There are certain parts of it where I spent days tinkering with them to get them just right. Like the crystalline computer console that I made for the Fortress of Solitude room. Oh man, the tinkering with that was impressive. See, because what you don't see on that one is that the crystal shards that you pick up are not actually a prop that is like a separate asset in the Foundry. No. They're attached to gigantic rocks. The rock is hidden under the floor, so you don't see it. All you see is the crystal shard sticking up, and I had to figure out how to position the gigantic rock so that you could only see the crystal shard, and you could see the crystal shard in exactly the right spot, because what I had the player doing was picking up the shard from one side of the room and then walking to the other side of the room and sticking it into a slot in a crystalline console, which, also that's something I totally borrowed from Superman 3, but wait, no, it was Superman 2. You still get the idea, though.
One thing I'll interject with Greendragoon's build is that I was actually building a very similar space recently for sort of this lounge/hotel resort. Although I don't think his room looks quite as good, though, because it doesn't have Admiral Quinn passed out on the floor.
No, there just wasn't time.
Well, we can add that later.
Yeah. There's space for that.
Yeah, I mean, I could add in a few more lights and stuff like that, but yeah.
It's a good start.
Good.
Nifty little lounge kind of a thing.
Well, this is kind of like
it really
the living area,
does
and then like the bedroom would be in the back.
Well, yeah,
or the bedroom's the next level up.
That would be a living room / family area, I guess is one way to put it. It just doesn't. It feels like something where you would like have kitchens and bedrooms elsewhere.
Or in the
All
future,
right, well, Dragoon,
replicators.
Yeah,
Dragoon, if you want to put up our contact info.
Okay. We can be reached by email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We are also on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Duncan can be reached at Gorgonups_SSF. Mark can be reached at MARHawkman. And I, of course, can be reached at Greendragoon.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. And until next time, log the findings.
Mm-hmm.
And good night.
Plug everything.